Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lucore Automotive. Today is going to be a part 2 video. We are continuing the saga of the 1967 Pontiac Firebird, that gorgeous purple car you guys would have seen a few weeks back before we left on Power Tour. When we left off with part 1, we had pulled the transmission out of that car, verified that it was indeed destroyed. We had worked with our friends up at Jegs to get a brand new TCI transmission, brought it back here, got ready to stick it in the hole, and realized that it was indeed a Chevy transmission and not a BOP transmission. That's not going to work. So we swapped out the transmissions, got the other transmission back here. At this point in time, when we're going to start this video, the transmission is in the car. We're getting on the final little bits of bolting things back together, getting things buttoned up, and get this thing ready to fire up and drive to verify we have all of our issues fixed. So that's where we're going to start from today. If you haven't seen part 1, go back and watch that before you watch part 2, which is now. If you've already watched that, welcome. Hope you enjoy it. Here we go.
So this is a really nice car, but it is really not easy to work. So it has an Olds 455 in it on small block motor mount towers. Normally with the Pontiac guys are going to roast me the big block because the physical dimensions of a Pontiac wide block, I guess is what you call it, is the same dimension as a big block Chevy. Well, in size. This car has a small block drag length on it. Sorry, this has a small block pitman arm on it, which is a problem with these wide blocks. So when they put this engine into this car, it has small block Chevy mount perches on the frame. Normally these have a perch that sits back farther and lower in the engine bay, which allows the engine to sit lower and farther back, actually farther forward, but definitely lower, because the top 2 bell bolts are right into the firewall and they are nearly impossible to get in this configuration.
Which is why this car is here.
And the distributor is nearly impossible to get in and out in time. On top of all that, the harmonic balancer timing mark has gone 80 or 90 degrees off of where it's supposed to be. I just found top dead center, and there's a mark on the pulley, but the actual timing mark is on the back side. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it needs a harmonic balancer because the balancer ring has rotated.
Is that the same one that's on a Pontiac?
It's Olds specific. It's a counterweighted one.
I was gonna say, because I happen to have a.
Well, and I didn't change anything with the flywheel because it's drilled, so this has a balanced rotating assembly. The headers are bashed all the heck over here to clear the steering gear, but it's not a pleasure to work on. Not at all.
I'm glad it's not a big block Chevy. Now, a big block Chevy would be a lot easier to work on.
Big block Chevy is easier to work on, and it would, well, I don't know that it would be easy to work on in this car or not. Probably would be.
I'm sure they make a kit to stick a big block Chevy on this thing.
Well, see, I don't think the big block Chevy uses a different perch like Pontiac and Oldsmobile would. Oldsmobile didn't have a chassis like this in the 60s, did they? They had the F85s. They didn't have a small body.
You could definitely tell there's no room in the back of this thing.
It's a bear. It's a bear to work on. But I've got the tranny in. I've got the new coolers in. The new cooler lines are built. I made a hanger off the passenger side block to hold it up inside of the headers so that they don't rub against the headers.
Okay.
The new dipstick tubes installed. I don't like that dipstick tube. It takes too long to fill the transmission. It's got a bitty tiny hole. So it takes like an hour to fill the transmission fluid. So I probably won't use those. Yeah, wrap this thing up, we'll fire it up.
I mean, as much as this is shoehorned in here, I can still see the header bolts.
Well, yeah, it should be lower.
Better than Pontiac.
It should be lower and farther back, actually. Like an inch and a half lower in the chassis. But they probably put it in this way to get the oil pan clearance up where it's, because the oil pan, it's a huge, like an 8-quart oil pan on this. and
Yeah.
it's above the scrub line of the frame. So you know, I mean, this thing looks like an off-road truck with the stance it has, but it definitely is not gonna slam the oil pan. Ain't no fuel in that. It's been sitting all winter. It's a big log and it needs a little more jump start than that. Volts my behind. Now it's got 12. Smells like fuel. It smells like a big block. I've had this thing over a year and it's amazing. It still works really good. It's starting to not charge up as much as it used to, but it's been a good piece. So I was wrapping this thing up and I decided to put my air cleaner on. And when I took it off, all I took off was this nut. And you can see there's no stud sticking through there. if you look at this, there's a stud locked down, but there's nothing on it protruding. So I have a serious pet peeve of one thing that some people do, and it is they'll put a little extension on here. Instead of making a piece of rod that sticks all the way out the correct length, they'll use a little extender. Now, I don't know, I'm actually going to go back and look at the video to see if when I first started trying to start this, if there was an extension on here, and then from the engine running and vibrating, it dropped. It's not in any of the holes, and I open it up and I can't see it. So I'm probably going to have to pull the carburetor off now to find that, because if I didn't catch that before my test drive, I would have drove this down the road, that would have gone through a cylinder or damaged a valve, and then I would have been blamed for blowing the engine up. Which is why I never use little extenders. I have one piece of rod that's locked into the carburetor and it goes all the way through the top, and that's it. You never want to have one of those, because if that thing vibrates loose while you're driving down the road and then it drops down in your carburetor, it eats your motor. So I'm rather frustrated. It's late. I'm very close. My fluids are full. Everything's hooked up. I'm going to walk away from this for a little bit, because I was not expecting to pull the carburetor off of this. And as a shop, how do you charge a customer for that? Do you say, hey, well, you know, this happened and now you gotta pay for it? I don't know what people do in that situation. But I mean, all my tubes were nice and hot while I was running it. It seemed to be running good. Then I was getting ready to put it back together and take it out for a drive, and I noticed there's a piece missing, and that piece is catastrophic if it goes through a valve. All right, so that was unneeded drama. I grabbed the wrong air cleaner, because the air cleaner I grabbed is a 402 air cleaner for 68. I think it's a 68 C10 that came in here yesterday, and I got racked up. And I grabbed the wrong air cleaner, and I remembered, I started thinking about it, I'm like, you know what, I don't even remember taking the air cleaner off this car, but maybe I did. So I popped the trunk, and sure enough, there's an Edelbrock air cleaner. That's a low rise. That fits this car. Hey, now I don't have to worry about that. But I will reiterate that those little extenders, I hate those things, because that's exactly what happens. If you're driving down the road and your top nut comes loose, and then that one vibrates loose, then they drop down in, and then they go into the intake, and then they make their way down into the valve, and if it makes it past the valve, it beats the piston up and does bad things. So anyway, I'm a dummy. I grabbed the wrong air cleaner. Easy problem to solve. Much better than me having to pull the carburetor off. Whatever, I'm tired, it's been a long day. With that, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna test drive this thing tomorrow. I need to talk to the owner about a harmonic balancer install on this, since his is spun the outer ring, so there's no way to accurately time this engine. I could probably get it close with a vacuum gauge, but whatever. We'll see what he wants to do, and we'll go from there. There's our keyway, there's our counterweight, and there's our timing mark on the new one. There's our keyway, our counterweight, and our timing mark on the old one. So this is definitely rotated around on the hub. This one was possibly drilled. Looks like it was drilled for balance, so unfortunately it's not something I'm going to be able to duplicate. But it ought to run a heck of a lot better, and it's out of balance anyway because this is not where it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna put some paint on this, and we'll put a new seal because the seal surface is all messed up. So we'll put a new front seal, a little paint on this, we'll stick it back in the car. That'll work. Now let's put a new crank seal in it. So my all-in timing is 36 degrees, which is right where I want it. But I'm getting a little bit of pinging on acceleration, so I'm actually going to drop my base time like 2 degrees and see if that resolves my pinging. See if we find a nice happy medium. It does look like I have a starter heat soak issue, so when this thing gets hot, the starter doesn't want to roll over. Let it cool down and fires right off. So probably need to get a starter for it when he's ready for that. But I'm going to finish doing this timing and then we'll test drive it and it'll be ready to roll. Well, I don't know if the camera does this car any justice, but this color is amazing in the sunlight. It's got a really nice metal flake in it. Some gray stripes down the hood. This is a great color on this car. I must admit, I really like it. Well, this is the final the wrap up for this car. I did end up putting a harmonic balancer in it. Customer's like, hey, you have it, just get it done so that I can just go drive it and enjoy it. I did uncover a starter heat soak issue. I don't think the customer is too worried about that at this moment, but I will make him aware and we can order in something for him, and when he's ready he can stop by and we'll stick it in there. Really nice car, drives super smooth. The TCI transmission's flawless. It was, we even guessed the speedometer ratio gears correctly, so that was a win. Ting! Didn't have to play with that at all. Just a really nice car. I really like this one, and I fit in it. I like it. It's all right. I got plenty of other cars to work on, so I'm gonna go work on something else. Thanks for coming along on this little trip with this '67 Firebird with transmission woes. Love that color. You guys have a safe day out there. Click like, subscribe, leave us a comment below. Have a great day.